Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Six Path Weeb, and today we're diving into a thought-provoking what if that pushes the Naruto universe into some truly uncharted territory. What if Naruko Uzumaki mastered the Tenseigan? We'll explore how this god-tier dojutsu would reshape her abilities, alter key battles, and potentially rewrite the balance of power in the shinobi world itself. From chakra evolution to cosmic-level techniques, this scenario opens the door to possibilities the original story never touched. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's begin. To say my world was darkness wouldn't be right at all. I couldn't open my eyes, yet I could see, softly, clearly, kindly. Shapes, colors, and gentle lights floated around me like a dream that didn't want to end. I felt calm, as if I had been resting for a very long time. It was the kind of rest that wraps you up like a warm blanket. I remembered another life, faintly. Kind voices. A quiet room. Saying goodbye. Then sleep. When I became aware again, I realized something surprising. I was small. Very small. I could see myself, as strange as that sounds. Tiny hands. Tiny feet. I was a child again. That should have felt scary, but instead it felt like a fresh page in a brand new book. I wasn't in a bed, though. I was inside a tall, clear container filled with softly glowing liquid, green like leaves in sunlight. It didn't hurt. It didn't feel cold. It felt like floating in a gentle pond. Around me were other containers, quiet and still, like stars waiting their turn to shine. I wondered if this was a dream. After what felt like days, or maybe just moments, people arrived. They wore light gray uniforms and friendly masks shaped like animals. They moved carefully, like they didn't want to disturb anything. One person stood apart. She could tell he was important, though she didn't know why. Her strange vision let her see more than surfaces. Soft blue energy flowed through everyone like glowing rivers. It was beautiful, not scary. When someone spoke, the words sounded unfamiliar at first. Then suddenly, they made sense. "There's one child awake," someone said respectfully. That's when my thoughts clicked together like puzzle pieces. This world felt like the stories I once loved. The ninja world. A place of chakra, villages, and dreams bigger than fear. A gentle sound followed, and my container opened. The liquid drained away, and I was carefully lifted out and wrapped in a warm cloth. I took my first real breath, filling my lungs with air that smelled like stone and trees. I opened my eyes for the first time. The world was bright. "So," the important man said calmly, kneeling so we were eye to eye, "do you know your name?" I thought hard. I wanted to be honest, but I also wanted to be safe. My memories felt jumbled, like leaves in the wind. "I don't remember," I said softly. He studied me, then nodded. "That's all right," he replied. "You can choose a new one when you're ready." Something warm sparked in my chest. A name formed in my heart, bright and brave. Naruko. As the room slowly faded and sleep tugged at me again, I felt certain of one thing. This world had given me a second chance. And this time, I would grow strong with kindness, curiosity, and hope. Over the next year, Naruko received careful training. Even though her memories were hazy, her body seemed to remember how to move. She was strong for her age, flexible, and recovered quickly after long days of practice. Sometimes it surprised her how capable her small 5-year-old body was, especially compared to the life she barely remembered before. Instead of feeling proud, she felt curious, as if her body was gently reminding her of who she could become. Danzo oversaw her training personally. He was strict and serious, but he believed in preparation and discipline. Naruko understood why he watched her so closely the first time she saw her reflection clearly. Her eyes were bright, with blue pupils surrounded by delicate, flower-like patterns. They were beautiful and rare. These eyes were known as the Tenseigan, a special gift formed from her unique heritage and her new beginning in this world. Danzo did not know all their secrets, and Naruko only explained that they helped her see and understand things more clearly than before. That was enough for now. As part of her studies, Naruko was given scrolls that taught the gentle fist style. She practiced carefully, learning balance, control, and respect for others. The lessons were not about harm, but about awareness and precision. Through training, she learned patience and self-control, and she began to understand how important it was to choose how she used her strength. The training was demanding but fair. Danzo believed that trust was built through structure, comfort, and clear expectations. Naruko noticed this, but she also thought for herself. She wanted to decide her own future, not simply follow a path chosen by someone else. Quietly, she promised herself that she would grow strong enough to make her own choices one day. As she grew older, Naruko began going on supervised missions. These were not dangerous tasks, but challenges that tested her skills, such as delivering messages, solving village problems, and helping uncover misunderstandings between people. Sometimes she worked alone, and sometimes with others. She always tried to choose kindness when she could, and she felt proud when her solutions helped everyone walk away smiling. When Naruko was around 10 years old, a great crisis struck the village. A powerful natural force swept through, causing fear and confusion. Naruko wanted to help, but she was kept safe and asked to wait. Watching from afar made her feel small and helpless. Still, she learned an important lesson that day: strength was not only about action, but also about patience and responsibility. By then, her eyes had seen many difficult moments, but they had also seen hope. Naruko was no longer afraid of what she might become. She knew she needed time, learning, and courage. Later, Naruko discovered that Danzo was planning a major political challenge involving the leadership of the village. It was not about harm, but about power and influence. Naruko remembered how events like this were supposed to unfold, and she realized something important. This moment could be her chance to step away and choose a new path. Naruko took a deep breath and looked toward the future. She did not know exactly where she would go, but she knew one thing for sure. She would grow into someone who protected others, believed in herself, and used her gifts to bring light instead of fear. And someday, she would be free to decide her own story. We stood quietly at the edge of the training path. I was there with a small group of route trainees I had crossed paths with before. This was not a battle or an ambush. It was meant to be a test of loyalty and choices. Walking toward us was the Hokage, accompanied by a few attendants. Naruko Uzumaki walked beside him, bright-eyed and alert, her orange jacket neatly zipped, her expression curious rather than tense. She always seemed to notice everything, even when she pretended not to. The plan I had been told was simple. The others would create distractions with harmless illusions and misdirection exercises, while I would step forward and complete the assignment. But there were two problems. First, the Hokage already knew we were here. Second, I had decided I was done pretending to be someone I was not. When the signal was given, the others scattered, activating practice techniques that sent leaves swirling and lights flickering harmlessly along the path. No one was in danger. As soon as the distractions began, I stepped out into the open instead of hiding. Naruko noticed me immediately. She tilted her head, puzzled, but not afraid. I took a deep breath, stood straight, and bowed deeply. "Please," I said clearly, "I want to tell the truth and ask for help." The Hokage raised an eyebrow, surprised. Naruko's face softened, and she gave me a small, encouraging nod. Instead of alarms or shouting, there was calm conversation. Later, I was brought somewhere warm and quiet to talk. I explained what I could. Root had rules, but it also had secrets, and I had grown tired of carrying them alone. I shared what I knew without fear, because no one threatened me, and no one raised their voice. Naruko stayed nearby the whole time. She listened carefully, hands folded, occasionally asking gentle questions that made it easier to explain myself. She treated me like a person, not a problem. Because I chose honesty, and because the Hokage believed in second chances, I was allowed to leave Root behind. By my own request, I was reassigned to a different team focused on protection and learning, not secrecy. It felt like stepping into sunlight after a long time indoors. Naruko was the first to congratulate me. "Starting over is hard," she said with a grin, "but it's also kind of amazing." Not long after, I learned more about myself. My parents had been brave villagers who helped others during a difficult time long ago. I visited the memorial garden, not out of sadness, but gratitude. Their kindness had shaped the path that led me here. I also learned my real name. Not a code. Not a number. K. It sounded familiar and new all at once. I smiled to myself. This life was not about erasing the past, but about choosing who I wanted to be now. Naruko understood that better than anyone. She had built her own future the same way, with hope, honesty, and a belief that people can grow. And for the first time, I truly believed it too. As proud as I was to be transferred into the Hokage's Onbu division, I understood the quiet reason behind it. People with rare abilities are often watched closely, especially when the village is still healing from a difficult time. Unique talents can help a village grow stronger, but trust takes time. Because of that, my assignment wasn't exactly thrilling. Uchiha watch duty. After a confusing incident years ago that left the village shaken, some villagers became worried about powerful clans and what their abilities could do. To keep everyone feeling safe, Onbu members were assigned to calmly observe certain areas. It wasn't punishment, just precaution. Still, it was very boring. My enhanced senses let me notice everything around me at once, which meant there was nothing to distract me from how slowly time moved. The most exciting thing all day was watching two shop owners argue loudly over whose lantern was brighter. They both laughed about it 5 minutes later. When my shift finally ended, my replacement arrived. He nodded. I nodded back. I celebrated quietly as I walked away. One of my favorite things to do after work was wander through Konoha. This time of day was my favorite. Kids played tag in the streets, shopkeepers smiled as they closed their doors, and ninja hopped cheerfully across rooftops on their way home. That was when I saw her. Naruko Uzumaki. She was easy to spot, not because she was loud, though she often was, but because she carried warmth with her wherever she went. Her bright smile and messy blonde hair made it seem like the whole street was a little sunnier just because she was there. She waved enthusiastically at a group of academy students, cheering them on as if they were already heroes. Naruko always treated everyone kindly, even when they didn't always return the favor. She believed people could grow, just like she was growing herself. Seeing her reminded me I was starving. I changed out of my uniform and headed straight to Ichiraku Ramen. "Welcome," Pucci called as I sat down. "The usual?" "Please," I replied, setting my sunglasses beside me. My eyes tended to make people curious, and sunglasses made things easier for everyone. While the ramen cooked, Naruko skipped up to the next stool. "Hey," she said brightly. "Long day?" "You could say that," I answered, smiling despite myself. Her bowl arrived first, and she waited politely before starting, hands folded and eyes shining. Naruko always tried her best to be respectful, even when she was excited. Just as I lifted my chopsticks, an Onbu messenger appeared quietly beside us. "The Hokage would like to see you," he said kindly. I sighed. "Can I finish my ramen first?" "I'm afraid not." Naruko gave me an encouraging thumbs up. "Save some for later." I promised I would. The Hokage's office was calm when I arrived. Kakashi was already there, reading quietly. "Good evening," the Hokage said warmly. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "Yes, sir. I have a mission for you and Kakashi," he continued. "A peaceful escort assignment. A traveling merchant had some trouble on the road, nothing dangerous, but he could use guidance and protection as he continues his journey. Your job is to help him feel safe and learn what caused the trouble, so it doesn't happen again. Finally, something meaningful. You'll leave tomorrow morning," the Hokage finished. "Any questions?" "None at all." After I left, Kakashi glanced toward the door. "Are you certain?" he asked quietly. The Hokage smiled gently. "Everyone deserves a chance to prove who they are. Growth comes from trust." Outside, the village lights glowed softly. And somewhere nearby, Naruko was probably laughing, dreaming big, and reminding everyone, without even trying, that kindness could be just as powerful as any special ability. Kakashi paused, his hand still as he adjusted a small bell tied to a harmless warning wire. He didn't look at Naruko right away. The campfire crackled softly, warm and calm, lighting the wagons with gentle gold. "That's a big question for night watch," he said at last, his voice quiet but kind. Naruko shifted on her heels, suddenly worried she had crossed a line. "You don't have to answer," she added quickly. "I was just curious." Kakashi glanced at her then, his visible eye thoughtful rather than annoyed. "Curiosity isn't a bad thing," he said. "It means you're paying attention." He finished setting the bell and sat on a nearby crate, resting his elbows on his knees. Route was supposed to be about protecting the village in unseen ways. No praise, no recognition. Just doing what you believed would keep people safe. Naruko frowned slightly. "Did it?" Kakashi was quiet for a moment. Then he gave a small shrug. "Sometimes. Sometimes not. I learned a lot there, about discipline, about teamwork, and about what happens when rules matter more than people." Naruko listened closely. She always did when Kakashi spoke like this. It felt like he was handing her a lesson he'd learned the hard way. "That's why," he continued, "I care more now about guiding the next generation. Making sure they grow up knowing they can choose kindness as well as strength." Naruko smiled faintly, the firelight reflecting in her sunglasses. "I'm glad you're here then." Kakashi chuckled softly. "Me too." The night passed peacefully. Naruko stayed alert, but her thoughts were lighter now. She realized that being a shinobi wasn't just about missions or money or even skill, it was about learning who you wanted to be. When the sky finally began to pale with early morning light, Kakashi stood and stretched. "My turn," he said. "You did well." Naruko hopped down from the carriage, feeling tired but proud. As she headed to rest, she looked back at the quiet caravan, safe and still. This journey wasn't about danger. It was about trust, responsibility, and growth, and Naruko knew she was ready to keep learning, one step at a time. Silence settled between them like a paused breath. Naruko almost laughed at herself. She had wandered into a topic that clearly carried a lot of weight, and now she felt awkward for bringing it up. Kakashi rarely talked about his past, and when he did, it was usually hidden behind jokes or quiet smiles. She focused on her task, mentally reminding herself to be more careful next time. After a moment, Kakashi spoke. His voice was calm, but there was a tired honesty in it. When the Nine Tails caused chaos in the village, the leaders decided that some of the younger ninjas should stay back to help keep everyone safe, he said. I was one of them. During that time, my teacher was lost, and I felt helpless for not being there. Naruko paused and glanced at him. He was still working, methodical as ever, as if the memory were something he had learned to carry carefully. Later, Kakashi continued, Danzo told me that my being held back had been a necessary decision. I believed him. I thought joining Root was a way to protect the village in a different way. He let out a slow breath. But I learned that I had misunderstood what Root truly stood for. I realized that protecting people means more than just following orders. It means choosing kindness and honesty. Naruko listened quietly. She sensed that Kakashi was not just explaining his past, he was offering it, trusting her with something personal. After a moment, Kakashi turned and looked at her, his single visible eye curious rather than guarded. Naruko understood. It was her turn. She returned her attention to her work as she spoke. I was discovered in one of Orochimaru's old research facilities, she said gently. It wasn't a dangerous place anymore, just abandoned. A group of children had once trained there to learn about unusual chakra abilities. Most of them were eventually reunited with their families. She paused, then continued. I didn't remember where I came from. When Danzo found me, he believed my eyes were special and thought I could be useful. I joined Root because I didn't know any other path at the time. Naruko looked up and removed her glasses, revealing her glowing eyes, quiet, beautiful, and full of potential. Kakashi blinked, surprised, but said nothing. They stood there in comfortable silence, the weight of shared understanding settling between them. Finally, Kakashi broke it the way only he could. Well, he said lightly, turning toward his sleeping role, I'm going to rest. Wake me when it's my turn to keep watch. Naruko smiled despite herself. That was Kakashi, deep conversations followed by effortless calm. Oh, Kakashi? She added, scratching the back of her head shyly. He glanced back. Do you have any extra books? Reading had always been one of Naruko's favorite hobbies. She loved stories of every kind and took pride in noticing what made a book truly special. During her time en route, books had been rare, limited mostly to a single dull training manual that everyone was expected to study over and over again. So when Kakashi had casually handed her a novel before their journey, Naruko had been curious. The book turned out to be far more serious than what she usually read, but it was still well written and full of thoughtful ideas. It kept her entertained during the long trip, and she found herself thinking about its lessons more than once. The journey itself had gone smoothly. There were only small mishaps, like one carriage driver who ate berries without checking what they were and spent the rest of the day resting, or another who accidentally sat in an itchy patch of plants and learned a memorable lesson about paying attention. Now, the group was passing through one of the Land of Fire's many forests. Tall trees stretched overhead, and soft mist drifted between the trunks. Naruko and Kakashi both appeared relaxed, each holding a book, but their calm was carefully practiced. They were alert in their own quiet ways, keeping watch without drawing attention. The forest felt strange. There were no birds singing, no small animals rustling through the leaves. Only the wind moved, brushing the branches together. Naruko paused mid-sentence in her book. Mist? She focused, letting her special sight gently sharpen her awareness. The pale fog wasn't natural. It carried faint traces of energy, carefully woven together. She noticed several identical energy patterns hidden among the trees. Illusions, she realized. Clever ones. Naruko subtly let her own energy shift just enough for Kakashi to notice. He glanced up from his book, calm and focused. She signed to him, Quick and clear. Someone is hiding nearby. The mist is part of it. Only one presence feels real. Kakashi signed back without missing a beat. Understood. Stay close to the client. Naruko closed her book and stood, stretching as if she were just a bored kid. She walked toward the front carriage, where Riko liked to ride. Riko always insisted on being at the front, even though it wasn't the safest place. Naruko admired her confidence, even if it came with a bit of stubbornness. Naruko knocked lightly on the carriage door and spoke in a cheerful, childish voice. Hey, big sis, do you have any snacks? I'm hungry. Riko opened the window and gave her an unimpressed look. We ate not that long ago. Don't you carry your own food? Naruko smiled sweetly. We do. Yours just tastes better. Before Riko could reply, the mist shifted. Several identical figures stepped out from behind the trees, moving more like reflections than real people. One appeared near Naruko, another near the carriage, but Naruko didn't panic. She stayed calm and observant. Kakashi moved smoothly, placing himself between the carriage and the illusion. Naruko turned to face the figure near her. It looked intimidating, holding an oversized blade, but something about it felt hollow. You're not real, Naruko said gently. The figure paused. Naruko stepped forward and focused her energy, not to strike, but to disrupt. She spun lightly, letting her chakra flow outward like a steady breeze. The mist rippled, and the false figure shimmered before dissolving into harmless water. More illusions appeared, but Naruko was ready. She adjusted her stance, not for fighting, but for balance and control. She remembered techniques she had seen before, not copying them perfectly, but understanding their purpose. With a calm breath, she created a gentle rotating barrier of energy around herself. The illusions that touched it flickered and faded, unable to hold their shape. At last, the true presence revealed itself at a distance, a weary shinobi who looked more surprised than angry. So young, he said, sounding more impressed than threatening. And already so aware. Naruko met his gaze steadily. You don't have to do this, she said. There are better paths. The mist slowly thinned. The illusions vanished. Without a battle, without harm, the danger passed. As the forest returned to life, birds chirping again, leaves rustling naturally, Naruko relaxed. Kakashi gave her a quiet nod of approval. Naruko smiled, feeling a little taller inside than she had before. She had learned something important. Strength wasn't just about power. It was about awareness, kindness, and choosing the right moment to act. And the journey continued. Naruko had learned early that chakra was more than energy. It was balance, patience, and curiosity. Her teachers explained that there were 5 basic chakra natures, each one shaping how a shinobi understood the world. Wind moved freely, water adapted, fire inspired warmth and courage, earth stayed steady, and lightning acted with focus and speed. Long ago, entire lands were named after these ideas, not to divide people, but to remind them that everyone had a different strength. Most shinobi felt closest to one nature, often the same one their families had practiced for generations. Learning others was possible, but it took time, kindness toward oneself, and a lot of practice. Only a few people ever managed to understand all 5, usually because they had special guidance or rare eyes that helped them learn faster. Naruko was one of those rare cases, though she never bragged about it. She knew that talent meant nothing without responsibility. Even so, the way Naruko fought did not always need flashy elemental techniques. Her style focused on gentle movements, careful steps, and precise chakra control. She believed that strength did not have to be loud. Sometimes, a light push of wind could extend her reach, or a calm flow of water could help her stay safe. Lightning, when used wisely, helped her dissolve practice clones made of water during training sessions. Everything had a purpose, but nothing was used carelessly. That afternoon, Naruko found herself in a serious training exercise alongside her mentor Kakashi. Their opponent was not an enemy, but a highly skilled instructor testing their teamwork using harmless water clones. Each clone rushed forward with a wooden practice sword, splashing lightly when it missed or dissolved. Naruko stayed calm. She stepped aside, reached out, and gently released chakra through her palm. The clone shimmered and melted back into a puddle with a soft splash. Another took its place, then another, each one slightly weaker than before. The lesson was clear: endurance mattered as much as skill. Though tired, Naruko did not give up. She noticed the rhythm of the exercise and adjusted her breathing. When mist filled the training field, she did not panic. She listened. She trusted her senses. When 2 clones approached at once, she responded with a focused palm strike that pushed the mist away like a clearing breeze. The fog lifted just enough for Naruko to see Kakashi smiling beneath his mask as another clone dissolved harmlessly. For a moment, everything was still. Then a final clone leapt down, not to strike, but to test awareness. Naruko stepped forward, steady and confident. She was growing. Not just stronger, but wiser. And that, she believed, was the true heart of being a shinobi. Kekkei Genkai are rare gifts carried deep within a shinobi's body, like a secret melody written into their very being. These special abilities often appear in families, passed down like treasured stories from one generation to the next. Some clans are known for them, while others discover something completely unexpected. What makes Kekkei Genkai truly fascinating is that they do not come with instructions. There is no guidebook or classroom lesson explaining how to use them. Instead, those who awaken them learn through something much simpler and much stronger. Instinct. Naruko had always trusted her instincts, even when she did not fully understand them. That trust was tested during a tense moment when the air felt heavy and time itself seemed to slow. She sensed that something important was about to happen, and her heart urged her to act. Without raising her hands, Naruko focused her gaze. It felt as though her eyes reached out on their own, gently tugging at the first thing she noticed nearby. In an instant, that object moved exactly where it needed to go, creating a harmless distraction that stopped a dangerous moment from becoming worse. When time returned to normal, Naruko realized what she had done. Her surprise turned into laughter, even though her body ached from exhaustion. That was new, she thought. I did that. The tension slowly faded, and the misty surroundings grew quiet. Naruko checked on her teammate, Kakashi, who had already regained his calm. He looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and concern, clearly impressed but also puzzled. "You're hurt," he noted gently. "I know," Naruko replied with a grin. "But I'll recover. I always do." Their mysterious opponent chose to leave rather than continue, offering a brief farewell before disappearing into the distance. Once Naruko was sure everything was safe, she finally allowed herself to rest, lying back and staring up at the sky. She felt proud, not because she had proven herself stronger, but because she had listened to herself. She had trusted her instincts and protected the people around her. Later, as they regrouped near their client's carriage, Naruko surveyed the messy surroundings and sighed. "Well," she said lightly, "I'd help clean up, but I'm officially injured." Despite everything, she smiled. Today, she had taken another step forward, not just as a shinobi, but as herself. And that, Naruko decided, was worth every ache. Juzo finally settled into a quiet cave that felt warm and safe enough for the night. The long journey had left him tired rather than hurt, and he gently wrapped his sore shoulders with clean cloth, reminding himself that rest was part of growing stronger. He had taken on too many challenges at once, especially after crossing paths with two incredibly talented young shinobi earlier that day. One of them, Kakashi, was already well known for her calm focus and clever thinking. The other, a bright-eyed child named Kei, had surprised Juzo even more. Kei's unusual eyes sparkled with curiosity rather than danger, and his determination showed that age did not limit kindness or skill. Juzo couldn't help but smile when he thought about how the next generation seemed full of promise. As the firelight flickered, Juzo sensed someone approaching the cave. The footsteps were unhurried and respectful. When the visitor stepped into view, Juzo blinked in surprise. The traveler had vivid orange hair and gentle purple eyes marked with soft ripple patterns. He wore a dark cloak decorated with red cloud designs, but his posture was relaxed and friendly. "You've had a long day," the traveler said kindly. "I hope I'm not interrupting your rest." Juzo stood, stretching carefully. "I've seen plenty of unusual things today," he replied with a tired chuckle. "So who are you?" "I represent a group called the Akatsuki," the traveler said. "Despite the dramatic name, we focus on cooperation, learning, and helping shinobi find a better path. I wanted to invite you to visit us when you're ready." Before Juzo could answer, a cheerful voice echoed from outside the cave. "Hey! Are you two having a meeting without snacks?" A young kunoichi with bright blonde hair tied back in playful strands bounced into view. Her blue eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, and her smile felt as warm as sunlight. This was Naruko Uzumaki, a determined and kind-hearted ninja who believed deeply in growth, friendship, and never giving up. She carried herself with confidence, and she always treated others with respect. Naruko was known for helping people see the good in themselves, and she proudly went by she/her pronouns. Naruko waved happily. "Sorry to barge in, but I figured everyone could use a friendly face. Also, I brought food." The tension in the cave melted away instantly. Juzo laughed, The traveler nodded appreciatively, and Naruko set down the basket with care. That night, they shared stories instead of worries, plans instead of fears. Naruko listened closely, asking thoughtful questions and encouraging everyone to believe in positive change. Juzo realized that strength wasn't just about endurance, it was about choosing a hopeful direction. And under the quiet stars, each of them took one small step toward becoming better than they were before. Traveling was something I had always loved, even when chances were rare. There was magic in seeing a place completely different from home, in learning how wide and colorful the world could be. That feeling never really left me, even after my life changed. Some folks say the journey matters more than the destination. I could see why. Still, for someone who had grown up around forests and gentle rivers, the endless golden sands of the Land of Wind felt like stepping into a painting. Sunagakur shimmered under the sun, proud and welcoming, even if the local shinobi studied us with curious eyes. After the village finished its repairs, our return trip began. As promised, my lingering aches faded quickly, almost as if my body was eager to keep moving forward. The road was calm and quiet. Travelers knew better than to cause trouble near shinobi paths, and the peaceful stretch gave me time to think. Once our mission was officially marked complete, Kakashi and I headed back to Konoha together. Without civilians around, we moved faster, and I finally slipped off my sunglasses. It was just the two of us, and while Kakashi was good at pretending not to notice my unusual eyes, I could tell he had questions. I smiled slightly. "What is it, Kakashi?" He paused, clearly not surprised that I noticed. Maybe he had wanted me to ask first. "Earlier," he said carefully, "you used a water technique I've never seen you practice. Your records don't mention it." That, I admitted, was new. He gave me a flat look. "What? These eyes don't come with instructions," I said, half joking, half honest. The ability had surfaced on its own, like a door opening when I didn't know the handle existed. I tilted my head. "What about you?" "I'm not sure what you mean," he replied. "You hesitated," I said gently. He didn't answer. I didn't push right away. Kakashi carried quiet memories, moments that made him pause when something reminded him of the past. I understood more than he knew. Hesitation wasn't weakness, it was a sign of caring, but I also knew how dangerous it could be to freeze when others depended on you. As we walked, I made a decision. I wouldn't force him to talk. I wouldn't dig into old memories. Instead, I'd be there, steady, supportive, and loud enough for both of us when needed. Friends didn't need all the answers. Sometimes, they just needed someone who wouldn't walk away. And from that moment on, I promised myself something important. No matter how strange this world became, I would help protect it with kindness, courage, and hope. After 3 days of travel, we finally made it back to Konoha. Naruko walked a few steps ahead of me, stretching her arms and grinning at the village gates like she always did, as if coming home was a small victory all its own. Kakashi and I guided her toward the Hokage Tower so we could deliver our in-person report. The meeting itself was fairly standard. We shared a clear summary of our mission, focusing on the places we visited, the people we met, and any important observations that might help future teams. The Hokage listened closely, nodding now and then, especially when Naruko spoke up to explain what she had learned along the way. She had a talent for noticing details others missed, and she explained everything with earnest confidence. When we finished, the Hokage thanked us for our hard work and handed over our mission reward. We were just about to leave to begin the written report, which was due by the end of the week, when I realized I was still standing there. "Is there something else, Kei?" the Hokage asked kindly. Kakashi glanced at me, curious but patient. "Yes, Hokage-sama," I said, straightening my posture. "I'd like to request that I continue being partnered with Kakashi on future missions." Naruko tilted her head and looked between us, then gave an encouraging thumbs up. She didn't interrupt, but her smile said she supported the idea completely. "Eh?" Kakashi said softly. I turned toward him and gave him a look he understood right away. "If you're ever unsure again, I'll be there to help. We look out for each other." He answered with a long, tired stare, then sighed and offered a small nod. The Hokage noticed the exchange and chuckled warmly. He glanced at Kakashi, who gave another resigned nod, and that only made the Hokage smile more. "Very well," the Hokage said. "Teamwork is built on trust, after all. You are dismissed." As we left the tower, Naruko bounced a step ahead of us, hands behind her head, already talking about how she wanted to train harder and grow stronger, not just for herself, but for everyone she cared about. And for the first time that day, it felt like the path forward was clear. Dear YouTube viewers, That's all for now. Support the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. See you in the next video. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.